Okay, the next step is ropes. So I got 11 ropes in total. So that one is safety rope, and that one's just for the lift car and balance weight. And then we got clevises, and then we got rope clips, and we got load weigher device. So I had 11 ropes in total, 10 lift ropes, 1 safety rope. So I started to rope a lift, which one takes long. It takes roughly about a day, because doing it alone, if there is 2 people, it takes less time. And roping also involves a lot of climbing on scaffold. Also, if you do roping, you have to use gloves, which when I can't use the gloves, I can't work in gloves. Because ropes damages hands big time, skin on the hands. But I cracked on, rope by rope, as you can see. When doing roping, first rule is if you start from one side, make sure the ropes lines up with the grooves in a pulley. I mean the holes on hitch points, rope hitch points. You have to make sure your ropes are not crossed. This roping method is called 2-to-1, so the ropes are twice longer than the shaft is. Next thing is important to remember: the donuts always goes on a car car side, and the springs goes on counterweight side. That is on clevises, unless manufacturer says different. But that's if they doesn't say anything about it, then always donuts comes on a car side. And always have to double check all the fixings if the rope clips are tightened up and if the lock nuts are secured properly. Regarding tension of the ropes, have to follow up. The ropes are evenly tensioned, and the clevices, the ends of clevices, all of them are the same length. It can't be one shorter, one longer. It have to be even. It's a lot of climbing up and down scaffold, and the main thing is not to let the rope go, because if it falls down, then it's basically you have to climb down, sort it out, and then pull it back up. And if it falls down, you can come out of the grooves, and then you're gonna face a problem again, pulling it all the way back. Also, when roping lift, usually you leave all the ends long, because you have to calculate your rope stretch, your overruns, your over travels, distances between car and a buffer, counterweight and a buffer, then headroom, then distance between counterweight and a bed plate. There is a lot of calculations, and it's possible that you can make a mistake. So when roping a lift, never cut rope ends, leave them long until the lift runs in, so you never know, you might done them too short. Regarding a load device, it's not the same load device on every lift. There is tens of different kind of load wires. The ones which one fits underneath the lift, the ones that fits on the ropes. One like this, there is a tons of them. The ones that fits on the crossheads, this is just one of them. regarding the rope clips, usually the U-shaped bolt that squeezes the rope, that part have to squeeze tail of the rope, not the main rope. So you have to put them right way around as well. And then the split pins, you have to remember always put all the split pins in, because that is very, very crucial. And regarding ropes, because the manufacturer usually sends them out, ends are not taped up properly. So what you do usually, you take insulation tape and you tape them up properly, because if the rope ends comes loose, yeah, they can basically the rope can twist and it can come loose all the way through the clevis, and then you can end up changing the ropes. And when lowering the rope down a shaft, especially if it's more floors than I mean 5 floors, then you have to keep a distance, because the rope usually when it's basically coiled up and you basically roll it down a shaft, it spins around, yeah, so you can spin around the rest of the ropes, and then you can mess up because you can cross your ropes, and basically you're gonna end up redoing them. it's basically when you do it alone, it's hard to do it. When you have two people, it's easier. But since I work on my own, I work out my own techniques how to do it. Usually it takes about a day to do 10 ropes and to do them properly, so they are evenly tensioned and all the clevices are same length. All the bolts are properly secured, all the lock nuts secured, all the split pins in, and nothing's left out. And usually when I start roping a lift, I start it from counterweight side, because that's the most complicated side. And besides, when you build your car frame and a counterweight frame, usually car frame is at the bottom and a counterweight frame is at the top. As you can see on the car side where the single guide is, basically if there wouldn't be a LiQWYD arm, I would leave shorter threads, the ones that sticking upwards. I would leave them sticking out less, but since the LiQWYD arm comes on, but it doesn't come on all of them, it's just 4 of them. So that's why all of them have to be the same height. And always have to be careful with grooves, like for example counterweight pulley, then pulleys under the car, because on a machine it's easy to see if rope is not in a groove or it's crossed another rope, but when it comes to the counterweight it's hard to see. So when you do the roping you always check if the rope is properly in a groove, properly I mean, it's not, he doesn't cross his other ropes, and he just have to double check always, and for example you pull the rope through the counterweight sheave, then you just tension it over the machine and a counterweight sheave, and then you check your grooves, and then you're ready to go downstairs and pull it through the castling pulleys. And the next thing is when even when dropping down a rope, you have to make sure that you can see all the way down the shaft, and that they doesn't go somewhere around the brackets or behind brackets. I mean guide brackets. And same as when you're pulling them up, especially when you use a scaffold tower like my one. You have to, when you pull a rope up, it's easy to make a mistake when you, miss some handrail or whatever, and you, leave the handrail behind the rope, and then you'll end up pulling it back and redoing it. And remember, never force a rope, let it go its own way. Of course you have to hold it, but make sure you don't make any dents, because if you make dents in a rope, they doesn't come out that easy. You're gonna have to put a lot of tension on one rope just to stretch the dent out. So when you're roping a lift, be careful with ropes, and that's why it's very time consuming. For example, on this lift, I started one day after the lunch, so I did about 4 or 5 hours one day, and then next day I was done within 4 hours. from the start preparing for roping. It have to be done properly. So for example, your chain tackle, you have to make sure the chain not gonna interfere with your ropes, so you have to hook it the way that basically the chain clears all the pulley and where the ropes goes. So you have to be very precise from very beginning. And excess rope ends, you just secure them somewhere behind the brackets and cut them only once your car is built and counterweight has a full load in it. And then you just can cut your rope ends when you make sure that the distances are right between buffers, buffer in a car, buffer counterweight, all your headrooms right, overruns right, and then you just can, because these ropes stretches as well, so you have to take that in account as well. And by the regulations, where the clevises are, it have to be left at least 4 threads. When you put your nuts on, it have to be left 4 threads. So that is by the regulations. So usually you leave more than 4. So there is no problems with testers or insurance guys. So most of the mistakes I made, I cut out, and there is some still left. I mean, I don't make big mistakes like damaging ropes and stuff like that, but like missing out a handrail and stuff like that. A rope going behind the brackets or missing a groove and stuff like that. But I always rectify that and always double check. if you ask me why there's music in between, I can tell you one thing: roping involves a lot of cursing, swearing, and so basically, and everything is sped up 4 times. So that's why there's in between. Of course, there's explaining has to be done, but the most important thing is to see it physically how it's done. So it's basically important to see how to do it, you know. Also, this time manufacturer didn't send out rope gatherers, but they usually have to be rope gatherers. So if you have rope gatherers, you can check properly if your ropes are not crossed. You just basically mount your rope gatherers on ropes and slide them down, so you can see that all ropes are lined up properly. And for example, if you have only one rope clip, not 3 or 4 like me, then you have to loop your rope end, so just in case it can't come out of the clevis. That is very important, because when the lift gets stuck, it jumps up and the ropes can jump out of the clevises, and that's the reason why we put rope clips on them. When it comes to the springs on the counterweight side, you have to remember that there is always washer comes first, then comes spring, and then washer on the top. And then you do up your nuts and have to put in split pin and bend it properly, not like one side but properly. And same thing is on car side. There comes washer, donut, and then washer again, and then your nuts. But if you have a load device, then you first you put washer for the load device, washer on the top. Then you put another washer before the donut, then donut, and then another washer on the top, and then you put your nuts on. end, with the last rope, I'll show you step by step how to do it, like how to put the ropes on properly. Okay, the lift is roped, yeah. You can see over the counterweight, hitch point there, and there's the car hitch point. And I got last rope left, so I'll show you how to do it. Let's go. Okay, so for that we need rope and clevises. We'll start with disassembling clevises. Okay, the clevis is disassembled. And this clevis we're gonna put on here and the load device on top of it. Okay, the clevis is in place, load sensor and a donut. Now we're gonna unroll the rope all the way down. Alright, so the rope is rolled down. Step on it. So now I'm gonna have to pull it over a machine pulley, through the counterweight pulley and attach it here. Okay, so the 10th rope is in. We pulled it through counterweight pulley. From this side you can see the pulley. And that's how it looks from here. And that's a rope clips. And that's a clevis. Let's go downstairs. Now this side have to pull through them pulleys and take it all the way up. So just like that. Step by step we're taking it up from one platform to another. Okay, I'm at the top, rope is in the clevis, and we have to attach to that high bolt. Okay, so the roping is done.